kiss, Bob. Oh.
The MSM has gone too far.
I want an NFT of that. I want that image for the rest of my life. We start with the Jacksonville Jaguars firing Urban Meyer. This came gradually, then suddenly, expectantly, then urgently, and it was wholly SMH-ingly. Former kicker Josh Lambo coming forward yesterday afternoon to say Meyer physically kicked him, saying he gets to do that because he's the football coach. That report came out, and then hours later, Shad Khan letting Urban Meyer go. There are scarecrows who don't have a last straw like that. Not even 1 year into a 5-year deal to change the culture and bring winning to Jacksonville, 2-11. Mina Kimes, what just happened?
The inevitable. I mean, at this point, I don't think anyone was defending Urban Meyer, maybe outside of a few guys on Twitter with Ohio State in their avatars. But I want to say something, which is this isn't a clean resolution or a happy ending. The fact that Meyer was hired in the first place, despite his off-the-field record in college, merits more scrutiny than it ever got. The timeline here, I think, also deserves a closer look. Because, Tony, Urban Meyer didn't get fired for allegedly kicking his kicker, which is a sentence I can't believe I just said on television. He got fired because we found out. The report also said that the organization knew about this. And I believe firmly that if Josh Lambo didn't come forward, if some of Urban Meyer's employees didn't come forward anonymously and say he was derisive towards them, and if he had won a couple more games, he would still be the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, despite all of this. And I think that is the most damning part of all.
Kevin Blackistone, what just happened? Is there a lesson in any of this?
Well, what just happened was character was looked at in terms of Urban Meyer for the first time. And that's what cost him his gig. It wasn't about X's and O's. It wasn't about Trevor Lawrence. It wasn't about all the L's that they took in Trevor Lawrence's first year. That didn't matter. You know, Urban Meyer is a fantastic football coach. We know that. But he hasn't necessarily lived up to that off the field, as Mina just suggested. And so that's what caught up to him in this time. And, you know, I give Jacksonville ownership credit. You know, they normally, teams like this, they would ride it out, right? They would tell you, well, we'll evaluate this in the off season and then kind of hope that it blows over. But they didn't. They pulled the plug right here and right now. And so I think that, you know, going forward, maybe teams, maybe college athletic officials should study character a little bit more in terms of the people that they hire, just like they do when they talk about what athletes they're going to bring in to play in their programs or on their teams.
Pablo Torre, I'll bring you in here on what just happened. Kevin thinks Jacksonville deserves some credit here. Do you see it that way?
Yeah, I'm not grading on a curve here, Tony, because I believe this is about the public reaction growing so uniquely untenable that they had to fire a first-year head coach with a #1 overall draft pick. And look, on the Shad Khan end of things, right, this man has shown to be uniquely patient almost. Gus Bradley, Tom Coughlin, he will wait it out. He gave quotes like earlier this week to that extent before Josh Lambo decided that, you know, revenge is a dish best kicked cold, I suppose. But the reality of what happened here is you never see this happen. A first-year head coach with the #1 overall draft pick has never been fired in his first season since the merger. On average, the last 14 times we've had scenarios like this, the coach has lasted about 5 years. Lane Kiffin lasted 20 games with Jamarcus Russell. This is how bad it got, which is an indictment of everybody who decided to hire the guy, and I think that's pretty much it.
Bob Ryan.
I can't refute or add too much to what my colleagues have just said, but I just want to point out that this was a poetic justice. This man never was held sufficiently accountable for the debacle in Florida, for the 31 arrests that he was able to skate away from. This is going to shed more light on his entire career, I think, and it should. There is no one's got any sympathy for Urban Meyer here, I'm sure, and he doesn't deserve any. But this is poetic justice. Somebody was up above us saying, hey, let's make sure we finally expose this guy.
Okay, I mean, we don't have to revel in the fact that somebody was fired or held accountable. The highs are the highs. Kevin, you call him a great football coach. I think that applies to college football. It applies to the winning those 3 championships. Sure. This is rock bottom here and floor for a professional franchise. I mean, would you call this the worst coaching stint in NFL history, Mina Kimes?
No, I wouldn't say that at all. This is a team with a quarterback in Trevor Lawrence who's had obviously a disappointing season, but still a ton of untapped talent, a lot of cap space, a high draft pick next year. It's difficult to be sure, but I think a worse situation is going to a team with no quarterback. At least in Jacksonville, you know who's going to be under center. You just need a coach who has the capacity to not only lead a team, but to develop that
Who are
quarterback.
you hearing? Do you have any in mind? What position this franchise is in going forward now?
I think there's a lot of qualified candidates. I would probably go with someone on the offensive end of things, like Byron Leftwich in Tampa Bay, Eric Bieniemy in Kansas City, or Josh McDaniels if he's actually open to the position.
Josh McDaniels would leave New England to go to Jacksonville. Well, let's go to New England. Bob Ryan, any ideas how a franchise moves forward after this embarrassing situation?
I don't think they'll have any trouble attracting candidates. The hands will be up coast to coast because they've got Trevor Lawrence. And that's the one thing that you keep hearing that the most important component of a football team you got as a quarterback. So they'll have candidates. I don't think that he'll have any trouble. They'll have any trouble finding a qualified candidate at all.
Pablo, this will just be chalked up as a lost season for Trevor Lawrence? Will this be chalked up to he needs some work and someone needs to come in to really mold?
I mean, look, Trevor Lawrence has not played well. That is true, I think, in a vacuum, even before you factor in the Urban Meyer end of things. I do think it's a lost season, an unfortunate season, of course, because you just wasted a cost-controlled year of a generational, allegedly, prospect. But I do think it's a great setup because of the cap space you can now use to build around him in the offseason.
Kevin Black is the last word.
Well, in a lot of ways, Trevor Lawrence is lucky because we're not talking about what a lousy season Trevor Lawrence has had. We're talking about what a lousy year his head coach had. But I would point to Byron Leftwich as a perfect person to come in there. I mean, he played quarterback in Jacksonville. He is a quarterback, and right now he spends all of his time on a headset with Tom Brady. That's a pretty good candidate.
We've been Horn. We'll move on. Huge game tonight. NFL can't get to this game fast enough after the news from Urban Meyer and all the COVID protocols and CTE once again in the headlines. Kansas City Chargers. It'll go a long way in deciding the AFC West and a longer way in proving whether Kansas City is back to being Kansas City. And Mahomes versus Herbert. Chargers won that first game in the first month of the season. Mina Kimes, what's at stake right now? Who has more to prove? And what's the number one thing that will go furthest in deciding tonight's game?
Well, a lot is at stake. The division, potentially. This is an incredible game. Unfortunately, looking at it from a football standpoint, I do think the COVID-related absences are going to play a role, particularly the absence of 2 players, potentially, at this point. Rashawn Slater, the starting left tackle for the Chargers, and Chris Jones, who's the defensive tackle, one of the best in the league for Kansas City. And to me, this game is going to come down to which one of those teams manages that absence better. Rashawn Slater is not only one of the best rookie tackles, he's one of the best left tackles in football and by a large margin the best on that Chargers offensive line. That's going to be a challenge for Justin Herbert playing without him. On the other side of the ball, ever since trading for Melvin Ingram, the Kansas City pass rush has come alive. 3rd in pressure rate in the NFL since week 9. However, Chris Jones makes a lot of that happen with those double teams. So I'm going to see, can Frank Clark take advantage of whoever is playing, probably Trey Pipkins in Rashawn Slater's absence? It's going to be a good and difficult challenge for both.
All right, hold on to your pick and you're 30 for 30 on this game. Kevin Blackistone, what's the one thing in your mind that's going to go a long way in deciding this outcome?
Well, to me, it's 5 numbers, 9, 9, 9, 14, and 7. That's the amount of points that the Chiefs' defense has given up in each of their last 5 games. So Chris Jones or no Chris Jones, I don't know how much of a difference he might make there. But that defense has come to characterize what Kansas City is right now, more so even than their quarterback, who we love to talk about, and the offense that we used to talk about as being generational. And so whether or not Herbert can beat that defense at home is really going to be the big question.
Points for you saying the defense. I'm going to go back and take away the algorithm graphic I gave you, because you just basically just gave us the total points allowed. Not much of an algorithm in that. Pablo Torre, how about you?
Yeah, at least throw in a decimal if you're going to get that graphic, KB. Come on. I would say that the last 6 weeks of the season, though, are instructive not only for the Kansas City Chiefs, but also for the Chargers. I mean, we talk about how the Chiefs are this new team. The Chargers' offense over the last 6 weeks has become the most terrifying in the NFL. Justin Herbert, by the way, back to being a legitimate MVP candidate by many metrics, the best quarterback playing football who's alive right now. The fact is, if this team, and again, I agree that Slater and Chris Jones make a big difference. But if I am the Los Angeles Chargers at home, I'm thinking to myself, the Chiefs haven't played an offense like us in these last 6 games they've played. Just wait to see what happens tonight.
Wow, Pablo Torre, best at playing the quarterback position alive right now. Justin Herbert.
Today, right now.
Today, yes, of course. Bob Wright, how about you?
Well, number one, in terms of who's the game's more important to, if Kansas City loses, they'll be tied. Or you can look the other way. If the Chargers win, they'll be tied. So, this is a very important game in the standings, no question. Count me in as a paid-up member of the Justin Herbert fan club. Now, I saw a tweet last Sunday during the Chiefs game, and it said, who's this guy? There's a guy apparently doing a great Patrick Mahomes imitation today. Oh, wait a minute, it's Patrick Mahomes. Oh, wait a minute, I wrote that tweet. So I think that is the key.
Yourself as a source, Bob. Wouldn't that be plagiarism then at this point?
That deserves the math graphic.
But can I tell you? So that's the whole thing. Patrick Mahomes plays like Patrick Mahomes. They're winning the game. Period. End of story.
Nina Kives, I'll bring you back in. There's a lot to unpack from Pablo, from Bob here. Please, floor is yours.
Didn't know we were allowed to cite our own tweets. The only thing I'll say about Mahomes is that success came against the Raiders, which did not give him that too high defensive look he struggled with all season. I'll be curious to see how he looks tonight.
You'll be curious. I'm curious to see what you're going to do with the pick right now, Nina Kives, after everything you just said. Who you got?
I got the Chiefs because of the defense.
Blackstone?
Kansas City.
Torre?
Chargers.
Brian.
Chiefs.
All right, coming up. 2 awesome game-winning shots last night that counted as 3 points in the sport that Stephen Curry ruined. Bob Ryan. I'm gonna points for the graphics operator here at CNN. We'll be back. Buy or sell next.
That is an
That's all the games of basketball, by the way. Not just that one game. All.
Around the Horn is presented. Welcome back to Around the Horn, brought to you by Chase. Coming to you from the Seaport District at Pier 17.
Man, basketball was clutch last night. Thunder Pelicans, had incredible shots. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander with one to start it. And then this, the longest in 25 years in the NBA since they've been tracking it. It's actually called Vegas. That's a play that they ran, and Devontae Graham got it to fall. And then for the Lakers, all right, the Lakers are getting an overtime game-winning shot. Not from LeBron. Not from Westbrook. Not from Davis. Austin Reeves. Did the bang come a little bit early? What does Mike Breen know, and when does he know it? Look at the excitement from this guy. Bob Wright, I turn to you for all things three-pointer. I know you think the game is ruined by Steph Curry. You're going to address that. What of those buzzer beaters jumped out at you?
Well, obviously 61 feet is a tremendous thing to win a game, but it's luck. We all know that. Even I made one once from midcourt. That was the end of the first quarter.
You're citing yourself today.
I can't help it. I'm just the way it's shaking out. But what the Lakers did with 2 Hall of Famers passing the ball up to an unknown guy to win the game, which is just pure basketball. Wow, I'm impressed with that.
Pablo Torre.
Man, I need a video or maybe a daguerreotype of Bob sinking a mid-court three-pointer. That would be incredible.
True.
I will say that play for the Pelicans was allegedly drawn up. Watch Brandon Ingram on the replay. He's supposed to set a screen. That was all Devontae Graham. There was no screen alleged in that play.
Kevin Blackstone.
Well, I love those game winners like that. Austin Reeves, great. You know what? You get set up by your teammates, you make the shot. But I got to go back to the Pelicans. If there's one thing you learned, Thunder, if you had watched the Christian Laettner shot, what did we say in that situation? Guard the inbounds pass. Once again, nobody's on the baseline. Makes it easy to get it in, and the guy throws up a lucky shot. Come on.
Nina Kives.
The Graham shot was lucky, it was more impressive, but the Reeves shot was more meaningful from a basketball perspective because he's a guy who has gotten more and more minutes for the Lakers over the last few games, and in this one played 9.5 in the fourth quarter and all of overtime. He could actually be an important player on this team. He can shoot, he can pass. I know the Caruso comp feels a little lazy, but it's kind of accurate, you gotta admit.
Bob, I was going to save this for your FaceTime today, but you're not making FaceTime. Ruin the game of basketball? Steph Curry ruined the game? Please, plead your case right here.
I never said he ruined it, but he has had an undue influence. He's messed it up. It's the next step below ruining. He's altered it in a negative way. That's why. He's too good at what he does. He encourages the wrong people to take those shots, and it's bad for basketball, and that's my story, and damn it, I am sticking to it.
Nothing changed, Bob Ryan. We'll move on. Buyers sell to Dabo Sweeney.
It's total chaos right now. Again, tampering galore, kids being manipulated, the grass is greener, all that stuff, as opposed to, putting the work in. And so now you got agents and NIL and tampering, and you have no consequences, and no consequences equals no conscience. Education is like the last thing now.
Kevin Blackistone, buy or sell?
I'm going to sell it like $55 million because that's the grass is greener that they put into the football facility down at Clemson. Oh, this is the guy who a couple years ago became the highest paid college football player coach when he got a $93 million contract. And then somebody asked him about, well, what about the players? He said, oh, no, we can't pay the players. Once that happens, I'm out of the game. And he's still in the game. How disingenuous can Dabo Sweeney be about this situation? Stop!
Mina Kimes, about what Dabo Sweeney said. Is any part of it ringing true to you?
I'm buying Tampering Galore as a great post-punk band name. I'm selling just about everything else he said. And I would have liked a follow-up question to Dabo, which was, okay, so if Will Anderson wanted to transfer, would you say no? I just would love to hear his response.
Okay, Dabo, I believe, has never taken on a transfer in the years.
Yet.
Okay, Bob Ryan, anything Dabo Sweeney say there ring true to you?
I am buying more of it than you might think. People are going to overdo the worry about who the messenger is. There's all kinds of nefarious stuff going on. You knew it was going to happen. It is bad, but when you start talking about education, you leave us cold. Don't give us that nonsense.
And Pablo Torre.
Look, there are people trying to manipulate kids. There's chaos in the transfer portal. But if you're going to defend the status quo better be good. And it clearly isn't for the players. So stop trying to exert control over these people who are unpaid employees for the millionth year.
Are you suggesting there was tampering galore going on before the transfer portal? Are you suggesting that? Are you suggesting that there were, how did he phrase it, manipulators and things of that nature?
In this establishment? How dare you?
There are 1,000 guys in the transfer portal right now, though. Wow, that's a lot. Kevin Blackistone.
Around the Horn is presented by Truly Hard Seltzer. Live truly. Please drink responsibly. Part of Happy Hour.
Thank God we have Case Keenum, Cleveland Browns special teams coordinator, and he's acting head coach Mike Prefer this week. Because of the COVID losses for Cleveland right now, it's Kevin Stefanski at head coach, and it's Baker Mayfield at quarterback. So Case Keenum is the man. Their roster currently down 19 players in the protocol. Do the Browns even have a chance Saturday with Case Keenum versus the Raiders, Mina Kimes?
Yes, I do. I agree with this quote, and I agree with that notion because last time we saw Case Keenum running this offense, he looked competent. He also gets to play a Raiders defense that looked far from competent last time they were on the field.
Pablo?
Remember, COVID was so bad to start this whole experiment with that NFL teams needed to find quarterbacks to take over if the line of succession was such that they needed someone to fill in. Case Keenum is a total luxury from that perspective. Everyone's going to want a Case Keenum pretty soon.
You guys agree. I think it's thank God we've got the Raiders then, but points to both of you. Move on. Showdown 2. Isaac Okoro posterizing multiple rockets on one dunk. Not that anybody has posters anymore. Memifying. Pablo, who got it worst?
Yeah, this is about the animated GIF, Tony. Something Mina knows well. Never be locked in a GIF of someone else's creation. I would say Alperen Şengün, though. Unfortunately, I see your name clearest, so it has to be Şengün. Catching it worst.
I feel like most of the gifts are me posterizing you, Pablo. I was going to say he dunked on half of the roster, but the reality was that it was more than half of the roster. He dunked on 3 guys. That's analytics.
Just walked into it again, Pablo. You awakened Khaleesi.
That's analytics.
Mina Khan.
So, former NFL wide receiver Vincent Jackson was found dead earlier this year. It was revealed yesterday by the Concussion Legacy Foundation that he had stage 2 CTE. This comes on the heels of former NFL cornerback Philip Adams, also involved in he killed 6 people and was found dead, again, CTE.